who is ready for June? I'm so excited for June. Let's get into June. I'm going to open up this book. I'm going to let members and team members follow up with any last lingering questions here in the chat box, but I'm going to go ahead and dive in for June. Okay, let's open this beautiful book. And before you open to June, let's open to that third, fourth page to our June chalkboard. It's beautiful. Okay, I'm going to give you a little tour of this chalkboard for June because this is the June art. Fun little history. This art, if you're an art history nerd, you might already know this, but this art is very much directly inspired by Thomas Cole's work, The Voyage of Life, Youth. And Thomas Cole did a series of these beautiful paintings, and each of them kind of depicted a different stage of life. And so this is very much modeled after The Voyage of Life, Youth, and it inspired Nathaniel so much through a huge part of his life, just the castle in the sky and just being led down the river, and he just loves this piece. It's one of his favorites. So he was so excited to kind of do his own version in fantasy and in small world with gnomes and fairies, and he just did a beautiful, beautiful job. So if you want to look at the inspiration, look that up and you will see how well of a job he did paying homage to Thomas Cole. It is really, really beautiful. So I will do a little tour here, okay? So we have little snippets of each of the June stories in this beautiful piece of art. So week 1 over here, we have, let's do our little top down. Over here, we have a scene from picnic week. And of course, in the story, everyone's there, but he kind of masterfully chose who's gonna go where. So this is the first chalkboard that you really get to see all the characters in their kind of true current form. So we get to see everyone on this board, so everyone's kind of somewhere else. But this is a depiction of our picnic week scene, which is super sweet. Rudabug playing guitar and Sapphire singing there as they watch the clouds and eat their little sandwiches. And for week 2, gardening week, we have a few little snippets. We have Emerald here with a little ladybug, and then we have Morrison here playing his Dandelion trumpet for a Dandelion band, and then that is blowing some little puffs, and Tourmaline here is floating up into a sky on a little dandelion, and Amber is looking up there at her, and so we have a sweet little dandelion scene. Week 3, we have strawberry week, and we have this gorgeous scene of Ruby painting the strawberries down here, which I just love. She is just gorgeous. And then up here, we have the Summer's Day, the last week of the summer festival and the summer games we have kind of depicted here more in full. So we have Petty Palm here with Sister Flame going down the boat, pointing to the castle in the sky. This is actually the kind of opening ceremony of their summer games for Summer's Day, which is really fun. You have Pearl and Puddabloom there guiding him down, and so he is on his way to actually light the torch for their summer games, and he's pointing to the castle in the sky because a Prince of Summer has arrived. And then we get a picture here of Eliza and Citrine up in the corner here. They are doing a flight race for the summer games. So you get to see who edges out there for their little games. And then Amethyst down here, can't forget her. She is dipping her toes in the water. So we get a little picture of each of the fairies, everyone scattered around here, and it is just absolutely stunning. So beautiful, beautiful, and so many of those little scenes are depicted in this chalkboard. And as you read the stories, you'll get to see a little more. So that is our beautiful chalkboard. Now let's flip all the way to June and get into June. All right, so here we have June. We have picnic week, gardening week, strawberry week, and the summer festival, which concludes our month and welcomes summer. We have our supplies listed here. If you are a Supply Kit subscriber, those are, I think, shipping out today, which is really fun. And of course, you can build your own, or we love it when people are thrifty. Using what you have is also the best way to start. And I'll also give you a few little tips for members who are kind of just piecing their supplies together on kind of what you need, what you don't, for a few specific things. And then let's get started with picnic week, shall we? Okay, picnic week, we open up summer, and this is such a fun way to open up summer and just embrace the new season. So our story is The Picnic, and we open up with Hamilton in his bedroom, and we hear a very chipper gnome singing "Summer Has Begun," and he bursts through his bedroom window, and Petty Palm is just very excited the summer has begun, while Hamilton is still waking up, and he's on Eliza's back singing "The Summer Has Begun," which is just such a fun song to start out summer. And then that day they are going to head off for a first picnic to kind of start the summer season. So everyone heads off to the little field and they have a picnic. And Sapphire has made all the gnomes sandwiches for them, and they are all kind of perfectly to their taste. And then we have a fun little moment of Petty Pom's jam sandwich and Hamilton's peanut butter sandwich kind of getting mixed up and smushed together. And then for the first time, they get to enjoy a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, which is a kind of just a fun thing that your children might get a kick out of Petty Pom and Hamilton's sandwich being smushed together and making PB&J. Of course, it could be almond butter or whatever nut if you need. But then what I love about this story is the end. They're having their picnic and they are watching the clouds go by. You might have already heard this song and it's so sweet. They're watching the clouds go by and they're picturing like, oh, this looks like this and this looks like this. And their dear friend Morrison says, oh, I wonder what that would look like. And we're kind of reminded that Morrison is in fact blind. He is a blind mole. And then what is so sweet is that Rudabug begins to strum this song on guitar to give him a sense of what it feels like to watch these clouds go by. So they get to include their friend in the feeling of watching the clouds go by through music. And so Rudabug starts strumming and then Sapphire chimes in and starts singing this really, really sweet song. I know everyone's crying now. And it is really sweet. So when you listen to that song again, it's just, there's a little bit sweet, there's a really sweet backstory between just how they are including their friend in this moment and how music can kind of cross those boundaries and those barriers so he feels included and he's like, that's what it feels like. So it is super sweet and he nailed that song. And when you listen to that song again, and in the audiobook too, when you get to hear it with guitar, it's just, that song is also a great lullaby. It's just like breathing. It is so sweet. So yes, Thomas Cole is the artist for the June inspiration. But it's a really, really sweet moment. And I think a lot of little life lessons for our children can really be pulled from that. It's really beautiful. So our songs this week, of course, Summer Has Begun, na, 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 and then Clouds Go By. So we have a really fun upbeat song and then a really sweet song at the end there. Okay, activities. Our first activity, if you were here for summer planning, you might have heard that for our kind of day one, first morning activity, we typically have done Play-Doh through the year. We'll definitely do some Play-Doh in summer, but we're gonna start out with bubbles. I love bubbles in the summer. And if you will have just finished Bubble Week in May, this is kind of a nice, easy transition because you should already have all of those things available. So you can just get them out and dive right into summer and let them open up their morning with some bubbles. Now, of course, if the weather isn't favorable, you can also just do Play-Doh inside if you need. Here depicted, we have the rope bubbles. I also love just using the bigger wands so that they can use their bodies instead of just their breath. But both are fun. Both are fun too. So open up with bubbles, let them have a good time. All right. Now, our main lesson for day one is decorated tea towels. Now, this is one that is kind of a prompt that you can really choose many ways to do this. When we did this in our summer test group, we had a lot of friends doing a lot of different things and choosing different ways to do this. And so I wanted to include it, but I also want to kind of give a just kind of note that this can really be what you want it to. So I have a few suggestions, and if you get a supply kit, it will come with a lot of these things, but you can also use this and kind of do whatever you want. So the idea here is to kind of decorate a tea towel that then you can use for your picnic, either as a napkin, a placemat, a little kind of bindle that you can tie up on a little thing like a little hobo bag, but it can be whatever you want. So one idea is these fruit stamp tea towels. If you slice fruit or even a potato, citrus fruit, apple, and you can dip that in fabric paint and make some really pretty decorations and stamps. However, I personally did not have success with this. That's why the whole activity is not just fruit stamped tea towels, because I did not succeed. So again, enjoy and see what happens if you want to do the fruit stamp tea towels. You can use fabric paint and follow the instructions on whatever fabric paint you get, or just any paint you can try stamping. So have fun trying that. Or you can, another thing that I ended up doing that I ended up liking is sponge dyed tea towels. This kind of gave a wet on wet watercolor effect on a tea towel. So I soaked the towel and kind of sponged turmeric and diluted fabric paint and kind of created this really beautiful wet on wet watercolor. But If you want to do tie-dye, if you want to do like the flower stamping, you could really do anything you want. Veggie dye, like really, this is kind of a prompt of like, let's make some fun tea towels with our kids. Let's make them custom so we can, have a little memento for our picnics. It doesn't have to be these exact things. So for my kind of supply hunters, you can kind of think ahead on what specifically you'd want to try. So you might not need the acrylic paint. And also for tea towel, you could use an old t-shirt. You could use what you have. You don't need to actually specifically get a flour sack towel. That's just kind of a standard, nice, blank towel. So use what you want, use what you have, but this is kind of more of a prompt to kind of decorate some fabric. If you want to stamp fruit, if you want to stamp a potato, if you want to sponge dye, if you want to tie dye, all of those options are lovely. So kind of do what you want here, but have fun. But then also, if you do some of these, it's an experiment. So if they don't come out perfectly, mine didn't come out perfectly. So just enjoy the process and have fun. All right. So day 2, baking day. We are starting the morning with honey lemonade. This is one of my favorite recipes for summer, honestly. It is so simple and so yummy. This is just like my go-to lemonade recipe. Of course, we have a vegan swap here to replace with maple syrup or agave, or you could also just do standard sugar lemonade, but the honey lemonade, it makes it more golden, it's sweet, it's lovely. So I have instructions here. This is also great life skills for kids, the squeezing of the lemons, the juicing, the pouring of the honey. My tip is to have lukewarm water when you mix the honey so that it can really mix in, and then add your ice afterwards. You don't want to mix the honey into ice water, otherwise it'll kind of seize up. And it's really yummy. And also with the honey, this is to taste. So if you want a sweeter honey or a sweeter lemonade or a less sweet lemonade, you can do as much or as little honey as you want compared to how much kind of sour lemon flavor you want. So adjust to your tastes, for your taste or for your kids' taste, or you can use your lavender honey from Honey Week. Love that. That would be absolutely delicious as well. So it's a really yummy recipe. It's a go-to for our family for sure, and I think you'll really enjoy it. Then for baking week, we are baking buttermilk sandwich bread to make for our picnic sandwiches. Now, back in our summer test group, I did have a few members saying, it's the first week of summer, I don't really feel like making bread. That's totally fine. If you want to skip baking day for the first week of summer, you can buy buttermilk sandwich bread or whatever you want. So again, this is summer, do what you want. But if you want a buttermilk sandwich bread recipe to kind of stay in rhythm, this is a really great one. It's really yummy. We, of course, have a gluten-free version. And also in general, if you don't have buttermilk, you can just swap it with regular milk as well. It's not going to really change the recipe much other than a very slight flavor change. But it's a really great recipe. And then day 3, we're kind of preparing for our picnic. So our morning activity, we're going to be making sandwiches. And it's so fun how just some of these simple little activities, it's just making a sandwich, but there's so many little life lessons in making a sandwich, the slicing, the spreading, all of that. So put out your spreads, whatever your child likes. If they like peanut butter, jelly, mayonnaise, ham, cheese, whatever they want. If you have really little ones, I would probably put a little dollop on the bread already for just them to kind of spread around. But your older ones should certainly be able to scoop themselves, but just let them make their own sandwich. And then you can use your either like a beeswax wrap or parchment and then wrap up their little lunch. Day 3, painting day, our main activity is a picnic. Your lesson is go on a picnic with your children. Have fun. And go out on a picnic. Set a blanket. Bring your honey lemonade if you can. Bring your sandwiches. Wrap them up in your little tea towels and go enjoy a picnic. Hopefully watch the clouds go by and have a lovely time, just like the gnomes and fairies did on picnic day. All right. Gardening week. Okay, week 2. Who's ready for week 2? Gardening week. This is also a fun one. I'm going to say that every time because they're all fun. They're all unique. Gardening week. If you open up to our overview page, you have this really cute, muddy little baby and a little preview of what might be to come. And he's just very cute in the mud. All right, because it is gardening week, so all of you families who like to kind of add on, we're doing mud, we're doing bugs. You could do a bug study if you want. I always love seeing what everyone kind of adds on to like unit studies for these ideas. So all my bug people. It's a good bug study week. So our story is the dandelion. So we wake up and it is gardening day. Thumbkin and Hamilton are headed over to Rutabugs for kind of everyone work in the garden day. And Thumbkin sings endearingly about his good friend and how he is such a good gardener and what makes a good gardener. And this is a really, really fun song. It's a fun one, and it just also really sums up what a good gardener is. So we're talking about Rutabaga and how he is such a good gardener. And then they're doing some weeding, and then they come across a dandelion, and of course the dandelion does not belong in the carrot bed. But then we have Emerald. So Emerald is kind of our if she was like a real person, she would be like the veterinarian or like just, the gardener. Like she's just like is very much like caring for the plants. So she's the green fairy. So instead of like ripening a lot of the fruit like the other fairies, she's kind of the healer fairy. So it's like if the leaves are turning brown, she can help restore things back to green. So she is a plant lover. I mean, they all are, but her especially, it's just kind of her as the green fairy. She's just very in tune with the garden and with everything green. And so then she says, "Save the dandelion," and has this beautiful song, "Save the Dandelion." I love this song, and true story, it was because of our summer test group, a member in there, we had already had Good Gardener and the next song, Dandelion Band, and she said, "Can we have like a sweet dandelion song?" And so per request, that was a perk of a test group, is you can actually ask Nathaniel by request to write a song, and he did, and it is lovely. One of the favorites of the summer album, honestly. It is so sweet. So she sings "Save the Dandelion," and yes, they decide, all right, we can put these in the field instead. And then Morrison comes and pops up, and then we have Dandelion Band, where he takes an old dandelion stalk into a dandelion trumpet, which I'll talk about in a little bit, and plays Dandelion Band on his little dandelion trumpet, which is totally like New Orleans swing. And then I almost said Sophie, Tourmaline. Tourmaline gets swept up, holding on the little dandelion seeds, and it's a really, really fun little end. So here's Morrison playing his dandelion trumpet. Really, really fun. So of course our three songs this week: Good Gardener, Save the Dandelion, and Dandelion Band. Sophie, if you didn't know, Tourmaline is 100% modeled after our little daughter, Sophie. So any of the chaos you hear about in the stories is inspired by true events. She is that equal combination of cute and chaos, and it's adorable. So we've had a lot of fun writing her into these stories. So lots of fun range of music in this week too. We have this fun, honestly, Good Gardener, if you're kind of millennial, it's kind of like a stomp, clap, hey. Like if you can picture like Mumford & Sons playing Good Gardener, like jamming on a banjo, like totally that vibes. And then Save the Dandelion is so sweet. And then Dandelion Band is like swing. So it's so fun. Lots of different styles here. Lots of fun mud kitchen finds in the Dollar Tree. And speaking of mud, so our first activity for our kind of sensory morning is stick your kids in the mud. Literally, your lesson is mud play. Make up some mud, mentally prepare that it'll be a bath and laundry day. Let your kids make the mud pies, get dirty, be kids. Let them just enjoy. We have some real proof of our own mud play here in this photo. If you don't have access to normal mud, you can go on a nature outing, on a mud hunt, or just get some soil from the store, mix it with water, and let your kids enjoy making mud pies. It is a good thing of childhood to be able to just enjoy the mud. So enjoy mud play. That is actually your lesson. And Joy, welcome to your first live stream. Glad to have you here. Always fun when people get to join for the first time. Okay, so morning activity, mud play, and our main lesson is going to be gardening. So if you can, get your kids actually in the garden, get them caring for the garden, watering, weeding, noticing what plants are which, and caring for the garden. And if you don't have a garden yourself, if you can take them to a community garden or a friend's house, get them in the garden. But I also do have an alternative method for especially those of you who might be in kind of classroom settings or just can't get outside to a garden that day. You can also do kind of a pretend play prompt inside. So like a farmer's market or garden pretend play, if you can set up a little farmer's market stand or something like that. Still kind of have the spirit of gardening inside if you can. But of course, if you can get out into a real garden and do some gardening, whatever that looks like, highly recommend this week for gardening week. Now for day 2, our morning activity is going to be a bug hunt. In part of the story, a little tourmaline is playing with the bugs. And so we're going to go on a bug hunt. You can use a little magnifying glass if you want, that's optional. But try to not only find bugs, but try to locate the helpers of the garden. So the little roly-poly bugs and the bees and the ladybugs, all of those bugs that are actually helpful to the garden. See how many you can find and go on a little bug hunt. Of course, they can notice the differences between bugs and all their little legs and stuff, but bugs are good. So even if they're creepy, bug hunt. So bug hunt for the morning. I let my kids do this on their own because I didn't necessarily want to see the bugs, but they had a great time. So all right, now our baking day this week is in preparation for our kind of culminative little garden pudding cup activity. So this might be nostalgic for a lot of us who had this like in elementary school. The little like dirt mud cups is what we're working towards. But of course I have some great homemade recipes for you to make this. Now also, if you don't want to make the homemade things, you can absolutely grab a packet of Jell-O and some Oreos and still enjoy this recipe. Absolutely no judgment here. So this is however much effort you want to put. These recipes are super yummy. I have the crispy chocolate cookies and the chocolate pudding. But I know even with the chocolate cookies, it might feel like a lot of work for cookies that are just going to get smashed. So however much effort you feel like putting into this activity, it is up to you, but these are really yummy recipes if you'd like to make them yourself, or of course you can grab a box of whatever crispy chocolate cookies of choice or pudding, but they're both really great recipes, and of course we have those adaptations for anyone who needs them. So you're gonna make that on day 2, save them, and have them ready for our kind of end of week activity on day 3. Morning activity for day 3 is going to be sidewalk chalk. As I mentioned in our summer planning video, this is kind of a summer spin on crayons. So instead of crayons at the table, we're doing gross motor drawing on the street or on the concrete or on the patio, whatever you can. It's just a great kind of summertime version, and also gets them drawing with their bodies, and it's just a completely different drawing experience, and always so fun. So get them out doing sidewalk chalk. Again, if it's too hot or if you can't, crayons is also always a really great backup for that activity. And then our main lesson for painting day, kind of our summer art day. My kid better create Nathaniel level art on the sidewalk. Take pictures if they do. Our culminative recipe and activity for this week is these sweet little pudding cup gardens. But what's so fun about these is not just the cookies and the pudding, to actually have them create little gardens if you can. So if you have an herb garden or some edible flowers or some rosemary, sage, thyme, anything like that, they can go collect little herbs and actually make a sweet little garden out of their little pudding cups. So have them, and in your next page I have kind of step by step, have them crush those cookies, scoop their little pudding into their bowls, and decorate their gardens, and then of course eat and enjoy. Now, for my supply people, I have these beautiful little clear bowls so you can actually like see the gardens, but this is something you can totally use what you have. It could be a jar, it could be a normal bowl. It doesn't have to be these specific ones. Your supply kits will include those, but if you're looking at your supplies and kind of seeing what do I need specifically, this is one of those things that use what you got. Just the point is that you kind of want to be able to see their little creations, but you can really use any bowl or any jar or any dish you have on hand, really. But they turn out really beautiful. They actually surprised me how sweet, and just seeing the little creativity of where they put the little flowers and everything is really, really sweet. And then they get to eat and enjoy, and they are quite delicious if you do the homemade recipes. Now, bonus activity for gardening week is dandelion trumpets. Now, first of all, this beautiful photo of my child blowing a dandelion. This is not actually how you do a dandelion trumpet. I didn't have an actual photo of someone really making a dandelion trumpet, but we had already used like the Morrison photo a lot. So I just wanted to add this photo in dandelion in this week. So to make a dandelion trumpet, I'm actually not going to like try to play it, but a dandelion stalk, okay, you're just gonna like take part of it off. If you want, you can kind of split the end just with your fingernail, so it kind of has things to like vibrate on. If you want, you can also try to like make a little like flute hole if you want, but make sure it doesn't go all the way through. And then you will just actually like blow really hard like a trumpet. I'm not going to do it right now because it would look really silly. And it's actually quite hard. You actually have to blow really hard, and sometimes it doesn't even work. So you might try this and be like, oh, we couldn't get it. It's hard. But if you can, it's really quite hilarious. And then if you want to try to make the little, like, you know, just take the top off to make little trumpet holes, you can. So and this could really be done with, I think, mostly any flower that has like a tube stalk. So I know someone doesn't have dandelions nearby you. So use what you have. And again, this is only like if you want to try. Morrison does make a dandelion trumpet, and that's how he plays Dandelion Band. So give it a try, but it would be a very hard blow to make a little dandelion trumpet. So I'll let you guys experiment with that in your own homes. But it's pretty silly once you get it. We were cracking up once we got that noise to come. And dandelion, also dandelion tea, dandelion stuff. Like dandelions are great. So if you do have them, you can chat about all the things you can do with dandelion. But warning, if you do a dandelion trumpet, it is quite bitter. So just warning there. All right. Strawberry week. We also use straws before our trumpet, so because we were short on flowers. So yes, you could probably makeshift lots of little trumpet style things. All right. So strawberry week, third week of summer. I love this week. All right. So let's get into strawberry week. Our story, this is a very sweet one that is very, very, very much inspired by true events. We have strawberries in our garden, and this is, and I'm sure any of you who might have strawberries in your gardens or just have kids and fruit, this story is very much inspired by true events. So we open up with Petty Palm, and it's kind of early summer, so not a lot of the fruit isn't really ripe yet. And so he's having to be patient because he wants everything to be ripe, but it's not yet. And so he goes to check on the strawberries, and they're all still green, and then he sees Tourmaline munching on a green strawberry, which, of course, happens a lot. And of course, it's like, oh no, that strawberry would have ripened into a red strawberry. Don't eat them while they're green. And so she is happily munching on green strawberries, and he is slightly mortified and not sure what to do. And she keeps taking one single bite out of every green strawberry. And he's like, no. And this was very much last year. Look, dear little Sophie, I literally have a video of saying like, okay, Sophia, you know, what color do we wait for? You know, do you eat a strawberry when it's green? Do you eat a strawberry when it's red? And she would just keep saying, like, do you eat a strawberry when it's green? Thinking she would say no. She said yes every time, and she ate so many green strawberries that year. So we'll see how she does this year now that she's a year older. But little kids love to just eat the green ones. And so anyways, so then let's see, Amber and I think Amethyst? Yes, Amber and Amethyst come to assist Petty Palm, and they sing the little Tourmaline song to her to remind her to grow into her fairy wings. It is very sweet, but she is just a little toddler, of course. And then Pearl comes along and sings Be Patient, Dear One, and this is a very, very sweet, motherly, very kind of, again, Julie Andrews-y song of Pearl singing to Tourmaline, again, inspired by true events, to remind her to be patient. And then at the end, Ruby, it's finally time for Ruby to ripen all the strawberries. She's been busy painting and ripening these strawberries. And then it is time. And so Tourmaline and Petty Palm get to enjoy the ripe strawberries. And that's where you get the song Strawberries, which is very much modeled after Mozart's 21st Piano Concerto. It's really, really beautiful. And it's a lovely song, and it just like, you feel like you're floating in strawberries. It's lovely. So lovely song to finish off the week of strawberries. So songs this week, we have Little Tourmaline, Be Patient, Dear One, and Strawberries, and lots of fun ones. Now, we do have some Play-Doh this week, all right? We have strawberry Play-Doh this week for our morning activity. This is really simple and really sweet. It's really just red Play-Doh, so I have a red Play-Doh recipe, and you add sesame seeds, and it just is exactly the texture of strawberries. It is so fun. Of course, if you have a sesame allergy, you can omit those. You can use flax seeds, poppy seeds, or just skip the seeds altogether just for red strawberries. But if you can have sesame seeds in your home, it just is like a strawberry. It's strawberry Play-Doh. It's so fun. So add those sesame seeds at the end. So you'll make your Play-Doh like normal. And then once it's made, you kind of knead in the sesame seeds and get this beautiful strawberry texture. It's a lot of fun. And I know strawberry season will vary where you are. So here in Washington State, third week of June is peak strawberry season, which is why it's third week of June in our curriculum. But of course, as I mentioned in my summer planning, and as I will always mention, if your strawberry season is different, you can absolutely put this story really wherever you want. This one is not continuous in any way. It could go in any season, in any part of summer. So if you're if it's even earlier, you could sneak this up and do this sooner if you'd like. There is one activity that's like kind of summer holiday related, but you could also adapt it really easily. So I'll touch on that. But you can absolutely move this week to depending on when your strawberries are ripe. But here in the Pacific Northwest, it is very much June. So that is why it is where it is. So our morning activity, strawberry Play-Doh. Our main lesson for our life skills, living arts day is, if you can, strawberry picking. So if you can actually go out strawberry picking to a strawberry farm, definitely do that if you can. If you can't do that, you could take your kid to a farmer's market or even just the store and buy some good strawberries for your strawberry jam making, because we will be making strawberry jam. So you could use that as just a preparation day for getting the strawberries you need for jam. Or I know someone did say, my child's allergic to strawberries. You can also replace with raspberries for the jam making, or really any fruit you want to make jam. So if you can go strawberry picking, now's your prompt, now's your chance to take your kids on a great little strawberry field trip if it works out for your season and your area and your children. And we have some in our backyard, which is always a lot of fun, and they're always ripe at this time. So yes, if you can, get out and pick some strawberries. Now, our morning activity for day 2 is painted strawberry rocks. So these are kind of a fun craft, and if you do have strawberries in your garden, can actually be practical to help ward off the birds from eating your strawberries. But notes in your planners, okay, my note takers. This, I recommend doing some prep ahead of time. Now, if you cannot go strawberry picking, you could also do some of this prep for main lesson day 1 to prepare for our activity for day 2, because this painted strawberry rocks does best in steps. So to do this, you really want to paint a coat of white on the rock first, let it dry, and then paint a coat of glossy red and then let it dry. And I found that the most fun part for the kids is using the yellow and green acrylic paint pens to just decorate the seeds and the stems. So if you especially have littles, I would recommend preparing the base of the rock ahead of time and having your activity actually just be with the little paint pens. Here you have little Sophia decorating her little strawberry rocks. So just a note for some prep, if you want to prep that on day 1 to do the first 2 coats of white and red, and that white base really will help it look good. If you don't do that white base, the acrylic right on the rock kind of just doesn't look as nice, and I would highly recommend glossy acrylic paint for the red, and then paint pens for the seeds and the stems, and they look really, really cute. So just lots of tips for planning ahead, for making sure you have time to do those coats and dry so that you can enjoy just doing the little details with your kids, really. And then baking day main lesson is strawberry freezer jam, which is really, really fun and yummy. And I love the freezer jam process because it doesn't include, you do have to cook a little bit, but it's not like cooking over a hot stove for a long time, right? So it's just, you can cook it and then you get to see, it's just more about the real fruit, and it really preserves the taste of the natural fruit more so than typical jam. And you don't actually have to have canning stuff. You can just keep it in the fridge or the freezer, and it works really well for gifts and stuff. So another big tip. So I have my strawberry freezer jam recipe, and if here in the US, if you can find Sure-Gel pectin, that's what you're going to use. But still, no matter what pectin you use, and I think in the UK it's called jam sugar, in every different thing. Does the pectin smell like how the gelatin smelled during marshmallow making? It has a little scent, not as strong as the marshmallows though. still refer to the actual pectin recipe that you're using. This is a guide, and mostly you can kind of use this as a guide for the instructions. So like you get to see step 1, you're mashing. This is what step 7 looks like, and kind of get a sense of it. But really, I recommend still using, each pectin is different, and there's less sugar pectin, normal pectin. There's lots of different brands and lots of different types. And it's a very specific, like a science for how much fruit you have to that brand of pectin and how much sugar. And all of those things have to be just right to get it to set. So here's kind of my suggested recipe based on the sugar gel jam, but still look at the recipe for the freezer jam on the packet or on the box or with whatever you get. This is a guide as far as the instructions. The kids get to mash the berries, then you cook the pectin and stir it into the mashed berries and put it in jars. But please, still, whatever pectin you get, follow those quantities to make sure it sets well, okay? So, and especially if you're not in the US and you have different brands, look at that. They usually will come with instructions. So just a big note there, this is kind of a unique thing because it has to set just right. So just take note of that. And then day 3, painting day, morning, sidewalk chalk again, enjoy an easy drawing outside. And then this is kind of our one kind of holiday-ish. We have these strawberry Father's Day cards, but of course this doesn't have to be Father's Day specific. If you're in the US this year, this does line up perfectly before Father's Day Sunday, but you could do this for any little fun strawberry printed craft. It's really just making prints out of strawberries. This works best with like farm fresh, really ripe strawberries. You can see you just cut them in half and then kind of slice the top out to get that heart shape and then just stamp them on some watercolor paper and they make sweet little hearts. You can have a child write a little note to daddy, or you could write a note to daddy, or it could be to grandma, to mommy, to friends, or just heart stamps. Now, if they're not super juicy, you could also kind of use them as stamps in red watercolor or red paint, however you want to do it. But the idea is just using the shape of the strawberry to make a little heart to stamp. So if you're going to switch this to wherever you need it as far as where strawberries are ripe for you, you can adapt this recipe accordingly, okay? And that's it. All right, I'm going to take a sip of water. I know we're almost at noon. I had a feeling we would go over today because of all my announcements earlier. And then we will finish up the last week of June for Summer Festival Week. So Summer Festival Week, of course, is kind of honoring the solstice. And this is a star turning week, our first star turning week of summer. So we will be turning our star from light green to that light yellow. And I'll sing our little star turning song. So if you're newer, what I like to do is I like to turn my star while singing this. It's the same tune as the Seasons Come, Seasons Go song from the September album. But it's kind of, you just do it a little slowly, more reverently. And it's just a sweet little moment. So our summer star turning song. Seasons come and seasons go. With our star we turn to show. Summer sun will gleam and glow as we watch the garden grow. So sing, turn, welcome summer. All right, and then you can also do a little seasons come, seasons go dance if you want. But we have lots of fun summer kind of solstice celebration activities this week, okay? So our story this week is called Summer's Day. So they call their solstice Summer's Day, just like they called Winter's Day, and it is Summer's Day, which I just love. I just feel like it's Summer's Day. I just love it. So this is the story, and this is a longer story. So this is 2 full pages, so just so you are aware, this is a longer story. This will be probably released in just one longer audiobook because of kind of just the way the story is written, but if you want to break this up over the course of the week to read section by section, this would be probably a good one to do that because it is a little bit longer. You kind of have the morning greeting of Father, Son, and Prince of Summer, and then you have the summer games later. So it's very much, 2 parts that you can break up for the week. So just little mental note that this story is a little bit longer, okay? So Summer's Day, what I love is that the gnomes' tradition for Summer's Day is for the longest day of the year, right, the solstice, they wake up before the sunrise and they all gather together to watch the sunrise on the longest day of the year. And then they have this day of festivities, and then they watch the sun set and end with a bonfire. So for the longest day of the year, they get to be awake to see the sun rise and set and enjoy every hour of the longest day of the year. So it's a really, really fun tradition that they do that you can adapt if you would like to wake up early that day. So they wake up, they're all kind of tired, and then Citrine, of course, she's the yellow fairy, so she leads Father Sun's song. And Father Sun's song is, it gives me chills. It's so beautiful. And still, we picture, eventually, even with audiobooks, I'm sure he'll add more layers of instruments and drums and things. And it's just a really, really beautiful chorus to just have Father Sun rise on the horizon. So we start with Father Sun's song, and then the Prince of Summer has arrived. We see his floating castle in the sky, which means he is here, and the sun and summer has arrived in full force. Now, what they do to celebrate is the Summer Games. So this is, of course, also kind of a nod to the Olympics, which I think is really fun and a really fun way to get kids moving their bodies and having fun with games in the summer. And even if it's not an Olympics year, it's just really fun. So then we get to hear the gnomes and fairies compete in their summer games, and it is so fun. So we get to see kind of the strengths of each gnome. Of course, Hamilton is really good at climbing. Wondergarten and Morrison are good at throwing, and you kind of get to see the strengths of each of these characters. And then we have, but what's fun is that we have Hamilton and Eliza and Morrison who get to join. This is their first year participating in the Summer Games. Usually it's just been the gnomes and fairies. And so Eliza gets to compete with the fairies, the flying tournament, and Hamilton gets to compete with the gnomes. Morrison gets to compete with the gnomes. So it's a really, really fun, just like day of celebration of everyone's strengths, and it's a really, really fun story. And you get to see how they all compete and cheer each other on, and then of course they end at the end of the day, and it's just a really, really fun way and day to celebrate the solstice. So songs this week: Father Sun and Prince of Summer. Really, really great songs. We do have Play-Doh again this week. We have orange Play-Doh, kind of just like celebrating the colors and sense of summer. So you have two options here. You can actually do this with hot orange juice. You might have to add a little extra flour if it gets sticky, but to actually make it smell like orange Play-Doh if you want, or you can just do water and food coloring. If you do actual orange juice, you'll need to keep it in the fridge. If you want to keep it simple and do water and orange food coloring, that's fine too. It'll keep a long time. So that's up to you. So orange Play-Doh, just nice, bright, summery Play-Doh. We have adaptations for there if you need it. Now, our Living Arts Day activity is kind of one of those two-part activities that we're going to start with these really cool turmeric sun prints. And then we're going to take those prints. Yes, you can add some orange essential oil if you want for that scent. If you want to just do water and oil and essential oil, you can absolutely do that. But for our sun prints, we're going to make these amazing, cool like sun prints and then turn them into a summer bunting. So this can be messy, so turmeric stains everything it touches. So in these photos, you will see that we used our lovely, beautiful wooden painting boards, which I would highly not recommend because they all ended up so stained, and they will be stained in bright neon yellow forever. So don't use your nice painting boards. You can use something else, but turmeric does stain a lot. So turmeric. You'll need turmeric, rubbing alcohol, some flowers, a glass like dish, or even a glass cutting board if you can. So essentially what you're going to do is you're going to mix this kind of turmeric and alcohol mixture, and I've been talking for an hour. Your children are going to paint with their like turmeric mixture onto their paper, and it won't feel like paint, but they get to kind of paint it. And then they're going to go on a little scavenger hunt and find leaves and flowers, and then they're going to place those on the paper, and we're essentially kind of making like a photograph, like a sun photograph. And the glass dish is really just to kind of keep everything in place so the wind doesn't get it, but you want the sun to be able to get through it. So that's kind of what that's for. It doesn't have to be anything specific, but that's the purpose of the glass. Put your little leaves down, and then let the sun do its thing. And so the sun is going to kind of imprint those patterns, and then you're going to take it off and you'll kind of get these shadows, and then you're going to make a mixture with baking soda and warm water. And then when you spray it on, it kind of like a photograph, it like develops the image into this like deep, beautiful orange color, and it's really, really cool. And then the shadows really pop out. So it's kind of a science project. So enjoy experimenting. You can also, if you want, have them dunk into the baking soda and water mixture, but my kids love to spray things, so they enjoyed that. Then the next day, day 2 morning activity, we're gonna cut those out into a beautiful summer bunting. So I have instructions here on how you can take each piece of paper. You can cut a little guide if you want and cut little triangles, hole punch the tops, and then your children can use one of my favorite tool, the blunt end needles, to thread into a beautiful summer bunting to celebrate solstice. So it's a really fun sun print decor bunting, cameraless photography. Yes, it's a really cool activity, but prepare for the turmeric. It stains everything, but the output is really cool. And of course, you will need to do this on a sunny day. The print part you'll need to do on a sunny day, so you can arrange as you need. And then our baking day lesson is this beautiful, delicious orange solstice cake, which is such a fun way to celebrate the solstice, a cake for the solstice. So we have our ingredients here, and full portion, child's portion. A few of the child's portions will come together. I think, well, actually the child's portion is like 1 layer of the cake, and the 2 child's portions will be 2 layers of the cake, and or a few cupcakes if you just want to do cupcakes. And then we have beautiful, really yummy orange buttercream as well. We have your adaptations for those who need it. And then of course, when you ice it and decorate it, you can just be inspired, make it fun, use the orange slices to make the little sun and whatever flowers, and just have fun with this. Let your creativity shine, and the kids can help you decorate it, and you can then use this and kind of eat this as a part of your summer solstice celebration if you want the following day on day 3. So have fun with the decorations for that. Day 3, our last day of the week for Summer Festival Week. Again, we're using the power of the sun for an activity. We're going to make sun tea. This is so simple. On a nice warm summer day, you can just fill a nice big jar. It doesn't have to be that big. It can be any size jar you have, with tea bags, and let the sun do the steeping. And just over time, that tea will warm from the sun and steep. And then if you want at the end, you can add some honey or sweetener of choice, or just have that tea the way it is, and then you can make tea from the sun. So it's kind of a fun way for children to kind of, again, see the power and warmth of the sun into something that they can then enjoy. So sun tea for the morning. And then main lesson for day 3 is summer games. And we're going to make summer games flags and enjoy summer games. So we have a little activity to make these little flags. These are just kite paper flags. So kind of like if you were to make a kite paper window star, you're going to start with that same shape. So I have step-by-step here of how to make these little flags, and then you just take a stick and kind of roll the pointed part, and it becomes a perfect little flag. Tape it in place, and these can be used as markers for throwing and running. So then we have some suggestions here on summer games. Now this can be really whatever you want, but this is just kind of some fun prompts if you want to have, to do some racing or some jumping or some throwing. So if you're doing a beanbag toss, you can use those little flags to mark each little child's place. You could do soccer, you could do baseball, you could do anything you want. You could just any games that are fun. We have the scoring structure that was in the story we kind of laid out if you want to use some scoring structure. But of course, the first rule of the summer games is to have fun. We don't want children feeling like they're lesson, and we want to just celebrate all the kids' strengths and really just get them moving their bodies and having fun with games and sports and all of this. So you can do hopscotch, like literally anything you can think of. Get your kids moving out in the summer, having a good time. It doesn't have to be like super competition focused, but it can just be a blast. So we have some suggestions here if you want them, if you have a group that you want to get together and kind of do some fun things. But of course, it can be really whatever you want. So, and then, celebrate summer solstice, eat that cake if you want to stay up for a bonfire to watch the sunset, or whatever other celebrations you might do for the solstice. I know many of you love to celebrate that. So enjoy and welcome the season, welcome Father, Son, and the Prince of Summer. And that is the end of June. Okay, thank you for hanging on with me for over an hour. Any last questions before I sign off? Togas too, Nathaniel just chimed in. If you want to make togas for your summer games. That's hilarious. Yes, if you want to go Greek and do a full Olympics games, you can do that as well. Okay, I'm going to take a sip. Last, any questions? Of course, replay will be posted, auto replay will be posted probably later today, and then the high quality clipped out replays will be posted later this week, so you can go back and rewatch any of these as you need. And also, if you could, please help me remind some of our new members or any members, watch the replays, watch the replays. I take a lot of time to try to answer as many questions as possible before you even have them, but 90% of the questions I still see on community, I have usually already answered in a chat. So if you could help me to support our members, to remind them, hey, go ahead and listen to this clip. That's also one of the reasons why we do the per week clip, so it's shorter, and another reason that we also post these freely on YouTube, because on YouTube you can exit out and have the little mini player so you can just listen to me in the background. So just some tips to make sure everyone's getting all the support they want and need. And remember, if you would like to help join us in a level of support that I mentioned earlier, we would be really, really thrilled and grateful. Anywhere from $5 to $75 a month. We have a plan for you. Reach out to Wondergarten team if you need assistance. And story release dates for June. Yes, I will be posting the story release dates later today. This week is a week off in audiobooks so that we can kind of get back on the right track for the week ahead of the story. So first week of June story will not be this Thursday, but the following, but I will be posting that schedule here very soon. And then once we get started on June, it'll be every week through the end of August. All right, thank you, thank you, thank you. This has all been so much fun, and thank you for joining. I know sometimes it can be hard to join live with little kids and busy lives, but I really appreciate it. It makes it so much fun to have you all here. So catch me next month for our July overview. If you haven't, go ahead and watch the summer planning replay. Otherwise, keep an eye out on the community for notifications. Remember, mugs are coming June 1st. And if you want to join ambassadors, our meeting for that is June 3rd. All right. Thank you all for being here and being so lovely. You make this space and place so lovely to be. And I will see you next time. Have a good day, friends.